you attack the most difficult thing of your day, and when you make that your habit, the most difficult thing gets smaller and smaller because you're feeling stronger and stronger, right? And then you have momentum. And so now you'll attack the next difficult thing, and it doesn't even feel difficult at that point. But the whole secret is most of us don't realize, depending on which researcher you buy into, somewhere between 45 and 55% of what we do is habitual. And the great thing about habit is you don't have to think. So I don't know about you, but the first time I tried to drive a stick shift car when I was a little kid, it's like I'm supposed to do this, watch the rearview mirror and it's too much. But once you learn it, most of driving, 99% of it's habits, so now your brain is free to do other things. That's the value of making something habitual. The weakness of making it habitual is you don't grow, right? The weakness of making it habitual is you don't feel fully alive. So it's like you gotta find that balance in your life, but if you can create habits that make you do the right things for your mind, your body, your emotion, and for others, then let those take over. Then it becomes, it's like working out. You and I both are workout nuts. And it's like, in the early days, it's hard to work out. At this stage of my life or yours, if you didn't work out or I don't work out, my bet is you'd be pissed off and frustrated, right? You need to work out. It's a part of who you are now. In the beginning days, it's like the last thing I wanted to do. But once it's in your life, that now frees you up to use that energy for everything else that matters in your life. So many people have been conditioned to be fearful. So many businesses have been shut down. Our children have been kept out of school for such a long period of time that there's after effects on that. And it's also, you want to be a student of history. Think of it this way for a second. When did mankind really become a dominant force on Earth? When they made one distinction. I've shared this with you when we were private. I think I told you there's 3 skills that you want to master if you want to have an extraordinary life, no matter what decade we're in. You've probably read Oxford and many other universities are doing these studies where they say half the jobs we have today will be gone by 2040, which sounds like a long time, but it's 18 years from now, and that'll go like this. And so my grandkids, my daughter, is like, what I want to help them with. Well, the first skill you got to master to be great, you're at School of Greatness, is the ability to recognize patterns. When humanity recognized the pattern of the seasons, the whole world changed. Because we went from hunter-gatherers trying to survive from place to place where we're exposed to everything, to wait a second, if we plant in the springtime, we protect in the summer, we reap in the fall, and then we hang on to some of that so we can live through the winter. That created communities for the first time, and then eventually cities and states and countries. So that changed the world. What'll change a person's life is when you realize there's also a set of seasons in your own life. And so think of it this way, 0 to 21 is springtime. Things are easy to grow in springtime. You don't have to do that much. Growing as a kid happens naturally. And some people live a protected childhood, some of us not so much. But overall, life is supporting you. It's sending you, teaching you, sharing with you. Now, when you get from 21 to 41 or 22 to 42, whatever range you want to talk about, some people get there at 16, some people get there at 25. You now are in the real world. And now you go test what you learned in your springtime. And it's a hot summer and you find out, holy shit, a relationship's different than I thought it was when I'm in an intimate relationship, committed. It's not the thing I just envisioned so easily. Or I'm not as bulletproof as I thought I was. I'm not president of the United States already and a billionaire like I said I was going to be when I was 19. So you start to learn, test, figure out what's real. And it's an important stage of life. 42, 43 to 62, 63 is the power of your life. It's the reaping time. If you worked hard in the spring and the summer and you put yourself out there and you planted, it's a reaping time. It's a time when you really become a leader. Just everyone's different, some sooner or later, but it's a great stage to understand. And then if you're lucky, you go from 63 to 83 and maybe 83 to 103, or the oldest living human's 119. You have an extended final season of your life where you get to be the mentor, you get to share, you get to make a difference. And maybe towards the end of your life, people look out for you again after you looked out for everybody else. That's kind of the cycle of life. But then there's a third pattern, and that's the cycle of history. The most powerful people, by the way, have used not only pattern recognition, but the second skill, pattern utilization. They see a pattern and they use it. So you'd say, how did Jeff Bezos become the richest man in the world? And the answer is simple. He studied the growth of the internet at an early stage and saw how explosive it was. It was like nothing else he could see. And he just figured any product, books, was the easy one to start with. But he got himself in and then he started to learn the real secret. that convenience is what people value more than anything else. And when he honed in on that one distinction, he not only recognized the pattern, used the pattern, but people that are real masters create their own patterns, right? You play everybody else's music, and then eventually you get good enough you can create your own music, right? So the similar thing happens. And so what's occurred is, in humanity, is you go through, there's this seasons in nature, there's seasons in my life, and then there's seasons in history. So watch this. This is what gives me great optimism for everyone watching it. First of all, winter's not forever. No pandemic lives forever. No, war lives forever. Nothing. Everything changes and everything ends. It means something new occurs. You may not like it, but that's how life is. And the good news about winter is it's always followed by springtime. Historically, some winters are long, some are short, but they're always followed by springtime. What follows the night? The daytime. What a cool way to set it up if you were God or the universe, right? So imagine for a second, all of your listeners or viewers, and you think about it too. What if you're born in 1910? Now you know the seasons of a person's life. So from 1910, the next 19, 20 years of your life, you're gonna be absorbing what was happening. World War I ends, the world looks like it's a great place, new technology, cars, radio, and then what happens? An explosion of abundance, the roaring 20s. And so you're a kid, you're 14, 15 years old, and you're like, I can't wait to get a car, to go. But what happened when that person hit the next stage of life at 19, 20, 21 years old? As they came of age, it's 1929. And suddenly, people are jumping out of buildings, total depression, dust bowl, nobody's got jobs. It looks horrific, and it was horrific. But did they get a break? No, when they turned 29, it's 1939. So think about it now, World War II breaks out. You and I don't remember, we weren't there, but anybody who was alive will tell you, it looked like the whole world was gonna end. Hitler was sweeping across Europe, bombing London. It literally looked like the world as we know it was over. And this group of people, like millennials, or Z generation, a lot of people make fun of and they go there, whatever, wallflowers, I forget the terms they use. And then the millennials and Z generation argue about you're old because you parked in the middle versus the side. I mean, it's bullshit. The same bullshit was happening then. These people were called flappers, they were irresponsible. But here's history and one thought. Good times create weak people. Weak people create bad times. Bad times create strong people. Strong people create good times. I get up because I have a mission. I have something that excites me. I have something that keeps me up late, gets me up early, and makes me feel alive. Because if you master this, everything else you can dream of is available to you. And if you fail to master this, everything else goes to the wayside. I mean, I meet people all the time in relationships and they want relationship therapy. And I say, you know what you gotta do? You gotta exercise, you gotta work out, you gotta lose some weight. You guys are just so tired, there couldn't possibly be any passion. When you're exhausted, there is no passion. You'll say, okay, well, I'm gonna really work on a plan and I'm gonna organize things and I'm gonna find the best trainer. And I come back and I'm talking to them a week later and they're still planning things. And this woman's telling me, no, but I'm gonna get the best trainer. I got the very best trainer to organize this. I said, ma'am, with all due respect, you don't need a plan, you need a trainer, you need somebody who gets behind you and just yells, run! Move! You don't need this long plan, you just gotta move. We're living in a society where nobody moves anymore. What do we like today? How do people get injured today? They don't get injured smashing into people, playing football, and anything else. They get injured typing, right? Picking up a pencil. That's how people get hurt today because we don't use everything anymore. We live in a box. Think about it. Think about our lives today and how different it is than maybe the way we were formed and made. To run, to hunt, to create, to procreate, to raise our children, to move, to farm, to do all the things that made us use all of our body. Today, what do? You wake up and you have this box life. You have a box breakfast, right? You get your box car, you drive to your box office, you load up a box elevator. You don't use the stairs, of course, right? You go to your box office where you type on a box, talk on a box, how much you achieve, how many people love you, how much money you have. If you don't keep growing, you're not going to feel alive and happy. We grow or we die. You're growing in your relationship or your relationship is dying. You're growing in your business or your business is dying. There's no plateaus. There's no in-betweens. So for me, when I look at this, I go, progress equals happiness. In other words, if achieving a goal, a lot of people achieve a goal and they go, is this all there is? Right? So they're not fulfilled. What you really want to do is, it's not the goal that makes you happy. What makes you happy is who you become in pursuit of the goal. What you get won't make you happy. Who you become will make you happy or really sad, depending upon who you become in the pursuit of what you want. So I'm a big believer we grow so that we can meet a deeper need. We all want to give. You know, everything thinks they want to receive, but truthfully, when something great happens in your life, the first thing most of us want to do is share it with somebody we love, right? Because it's so beautiful, and because when we share it, it becomes more. There's only so much joy, pleasure you can feel inside. You can have drugs, alcohol, rock and roll, everything you supposedly think you may want, but you only feel so much. But when you share it, it expands. So I really think that, you know, if you look at somebody, you know, like I was giving the example here of, you know, a man that mastered all of these sciences, meaning he made TV shows, he made the whole world laugh, he made more money than he can spend, Robin Williams, had a beautiful family, and he killed himself. He hung himself, leaving behind millions of people who loved him, more importantly, leaving behind his family, his wife and children. Why? Why did he kill himself? Because he suffered. Because he made everybody happy but himself. So a huge part of my focus is teaching people how to stop suffering. And you know, if you're listening, you should probably say, I don't suffer. If you would have said to me a year and a half ago, do you ever suffer? I'd say, are you crazy? I mean, I was like, I have 4 amazing kids, the most amazing wife, I have millions of people I get to serve, I got a mission, I got so much freedom in my life. And that would all be true, I wouldn't be exaggerating. But at the same time, I've come to learn that emotionally, to answer your question, there's only 2 types of emotions you can have. Suffering emotions, which we don't like to use that word, but it's really, if you're pissed off, if you're frustrated, if you're worried, if you're overwhelmed, if you're stressed, achievers are never fearful, they're just stressed. I always tell people, stress is the achiever word for fear. If I follow your stress, it'll take me to your deepest fear. So those are all suffering states. And in those states, you're not your best self. In those states, you don't enjoy your life at the highest level. If you have a problem in those states, it's hard to solve it. But the states that I've learned to train my nervous system, train my mind and heart to be in are beautiful states of being. Not just happiness. Happiness is wonderful, but if you're just trying to be happy all the time, it's artificial. But you can be happy, you can be grateful, you can be creative, you can be driven, you can be hungry, you could be in a state of awe, you could feel joy, love, surprise. And when you're in those emotional states, life is beautiful. When you're in those emotional states, you treat other people better because you feel better. You're in those emotional states, you perform at a higher level. And if you can have a problem and you can stay in a beautiful state, you can solve the damn thing. But in a state of suffering, of anger, of frustration, of pissed off, or of lonely, of worried, you're not gonna solve squat. So I offer you the opportunity to make a decision. Anybody watching, and it's the most important decision I think a human can make. One of the most important decisions is who you're going to spend time with, who you're going to love, who you're going to have children with if you're going to do that, who you're going to be intimate with, because who we spend time with is who we become. But I think an even more important decision is deciding you're going to be happy no matter what. Not I'm happy as long as I make enough money. Not I'm happy as long as my kids be happy. So not I'm happy because my business did something. But you're happy even if it rains on your parade, even if things are terrible, because you've decided life is too short to suffer. And I made that decision, and that decision has changed my life. Now suffering shows up, frustration, pissed off, worried. You know, that's the human mind. Our brain is 2 million years old, and it's not designed to make you happy. Your brain is designed to make you survive. So it's always looking for what's wrong so you can fight or flight it. And there's no saber-toothed tiger to run from now. So now we get worried about things like, what are people thinking of me? And is my photo really nice enough in social media? Or, you know, do I have enough money? When truthfully, anyone in this country who's in the 99%, people who say, you know, this is a horrible society, they're the 1% of the world. Half the world lives on $2.50 a day. So even if we're struggling in America, and I don't want anybody to struggle, we certainly are way ahead of the rest of the world. We are the 1% to the rest of the world, even if you're somebody who's in seemingly poverty in this country. So if you want to change your life, you can't build on failure, you can only build on success. And my invitation to you, my dear, is to consider that what I really need to do is become emotionally fit. I need to drive myself. I need to get stronger mentally and emotionally, and then I can handle my career so much easier. But if I don't master that, nothing works. And you won't master that as long as you let the stories dominate you. I'll give you one last example. Let's take another question. I'm going off on this because it's one of my biggest passions, and I really want, I didn't come here to just go on Facebook. One person watches this thing and makes this decision that says, I'm not going to suffer anymore. I'm going to make myself be in a beautiful state. And if I feel suffering, I have a 90-second rule. It simply says, what makes us suffer is our thoughts. Right? We're the only creatures on earth that can have thoughts and then make ourselves feel like shit, or have thoughts and make ourselves feel good. And most people don't master their minds. But at the same time, you know that 5, 10 years later, you look back and go, I would never want to go through it. I would never want anybody I care about to go through that. But I'm glad I did, because it made me so strong to deal with that. Or because I went through that, it hurt so bad that I care so much. And I love that I care so much today. You found a higher meaning 5 or 10 years later. My view is life is always happening for us, not to us. The problem that you're experiencing is a call for you to grow. If you don't grow, it stays a problem. If you do grow and you solve it, you not only solve the problem for yourself, but now you can help someone else because you've really solved it and it's not bullshit. So my invitation, long ass answer, isn't it? It's a soliloquy because I can't see your face. But my answer is get emotionally fit. You should follow through on, I should lose some weight, I should work out more, I should make more calls, I should respond more rapidly to my email, whatever, I should get into the office earlier, I should be, more confident, whatever your should list is. People love to have their should list be met, but it's kind of like New Year's resolutions. If it does, it's really exciting, but if it doesn't, which is most of the time, it's a little disappointing, but you kind of know it's not gonna happen. But when you decide something is a must for you, an absolute must, when you cut off any possible, you say, I'm gonna find the way or I'm gonna make the way. Human beings, when they resolve things, when they make a real resolution inside themselves, which is they raise the standard and they make it a must, they find the way. Think about it in your own life. Haven't you had some area of your life where you raise your standard and your life has never been the same? Maybe at one time in your life you smoked cigarettes, or you did something and you did it for years and you kept trying to change it and kept telling yourself I should. And then one day something happened. Something just clicked you over. Something took you over that kind of tipping point. And inside yourself you said no more. And it was a very, very different experience, wasn't it? Something inside you shifted and what was a should became a must and you've never gone back. Is there an area like that in your life you can think of? Again, did you ever smoke cigarettes? Did you ever eat a certain way, drink a certain form of alcohol, and then finally say no more, and you just don't go back? And notice this, it doesn't really take any willpower anymore. Because somewhere when we make this click, when we make something a must, we attach ourselves to it. It becomes part of our identity. One thing I've learned in the last, 33 years of working with people from now over 100 countries, 4 million people, is human beings absolutely follow through on who they believe they are. If you said to me, well, I'm really gonna work hard to stop smoking, but I've been a smoker my whole life and I am a smoker. I know your days are numbered. You're gonna be back smoking cigarettes again because we all act consistent with who we believe we are. I tell people the strongest force in the whole human personality is this need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. If you define yourself as somebody who is really conservative, you're not gonna be crazy and act nuts unless you're really drunk or something, and then you can say it's the alcohol, but it's really just you finally getting permission to be yourself. The alcohol is your excuse. If you're a really crazy person, you act crazy, outrageous, playful. You don't act conservative because it's not who you are. Very often people say, well, I can't do that. I'm not that kind of person. And I always say to people, really, when did you define yourself? I mean, really, how many years ago did you come up with what you could and couldn't do in your life? How many years ago? Most people, if they really look at how they're living their life today, it's based on a set of standards, a set of beliefs that they made choices about 10, 20, 30 or more years ago. I mean, very often we made decisions in our youth or very young about what to believe, about what we were capable of, about who we are as a person, and that becomes the glass ceiling, if you will, that controls us. There's a corny metaphor, but it's true. I remember one time I was with my family at the circus and there was a person there and they had this big giant elephant, and you look at this elephant and they take this little rope, put it around the elephant's neck, and they drive the stake into the ground. And I mean, you look at this and you know that elephant could rip down the entire tent with almost no effort. And yet the elephant doesn't struggle, doesn't try. Why? Because the elephant's conditioned. And they take that elephant, condition the elephant when it's a baby elephant. That's how they train him. When it's a little baby elephant and it doesn't have the power yet, they put a big rope around it and they drive this huge stake in the ground, and the elephant fights and fights and fights. And one day, finally, that elephant decides, I'm not capable of pulling this out. And once that becomes the definition of an identity of anyone, an elephant in this case, they don't even try anymore. It's just who I am, that's how it is, that's just the way it is in my life. I'd like to ask you to take a look at any place you've got a limitation and ask yourself, when did I decide to accept that limitation? And you may not even see it as a limitation, you might see it as just that's who I am. But so often in our lives, we've adapted to be a certain way so that we don't fail or so that people will like us or respect us, but it's not necessarily who we are. Joy comes when you're spontaneous. It's really hard to be truly happy when you're not being yourself. And most of us have no clue who we are. And so a big part of my work, if you've ever been to an event, you know, is to get people to do things spontaneously without thinking, because that's when the real you shows up. That's when the energy comes alive. And when you do that, when you start to connect to your true nature, suddenly there's energy available for you to set a higher standard for what you want in your life. That's what this is really all about. And when I talk about standards, when I talk about, shoulds versus musts, think about your own life. I know there have been areas in your life where some point in time you just shifted, you raised the standard and your life changed. Because whatever people have their identity attached to, they live. We live who we believe we are. That's just how it works. It's just kind of like, I'll give you an example. Look at your physical body. Your physical body today is an absolute reflection of only one thing, not your goals, not your desires, but your standards. The identity you have for yourself. If your standard is you're an athlete, then there's a certain amount of strength, a muscle tone, and energy that's available in your body on a regular basis because that's who you are. And so you do whatever's necessary to maintain that identity. Again, the strongest force in the human personality is this need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Because if you don't know who you are, you wouldn't know how to act. Once you lock in on that identity, your brain finds a way to keep you there. If you say, man, I'm overweight, I've always been overweight, I'm big boned, and that's the story you got, then you're gonna always find a way to get back there. That's your settling point. That's your identity. That's where things lock in. If you see somebody who's in really great shape, you ask them, do you work out? You know the answer. Yes, how often? And they'll tell you 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week, whatever. In a seminar, I'll ask people, who here works out at least 5 days a week? And I'm stand up. And you look around that room, and you know that they work out 5 times a week because you can see their body. You don't just get a result without some kind of action, without some form of ritual. Ritual meaning actions you do consistently. Now, do you think those people that are out there working out 5 days a week, do they have more time than you do? Or I have, or anybody else? Of course not. Is their life less busy? Of course not. It's just a must for them. They must work out that way, and they've made that turn in their life change. So I'm not saying you have to work out 5 days a week. I'm just saying whatever you really want, wants don't get met consistently. Standards do. Whatever you identify, this is who I am. And so it's not so much about changing your identity as there's expanding it. Deciding that, instead of your goal is to lose 10 pounds, which is not compelling, what if your vision was to get back to my fighting weight? This year, this month, this next 90 days, I'm gonna transform my body. I'm gonna take on a new challenge. I'm gonna find some technique or strategy, there's a million of them, that can reframe myself where I'm gonna feel younger, stronger, more vibrant than ever before. Here's my reasons, because I want the energy to really make my life work. Because it's tough out there, and I wanna be stronger than I've ever been before. I want to go in front of the mirror, and if I'm naked, not, want to laugh. I want to look there and take a good look and go, yeah, I'm proud of whatever I see there. Whatever it takes, something's going to make you laugh, smile, something that's going to tease yourself, but something's going to move you to another level. If you identify yourself in a new way, and you own that every day, and that becomes the standard of how you live, you'll find a way to make that standard real. Money's the same way. Think about it. It doesn't matter what's happening, quote unquote, in the marketplace. People that make money find a way to make money no matter what, don't they? Most people's standard is to pay their bills. So that's what most people find a way to do, even when economic times get tough. Most people, if that's their absolute standard, they find a way. Some people's standard is pay their bills most of the time. And so most of the time they do. Some people's standard is not just to pay their bills, but to take care of their family and maybe even some of their friends. And they find a way. In fact, you know, some people may be in a family where they don't have enough money, they barely have money to pay their bills. They work their guts out. And then somebody, their mother, their father, somebody else, their sister gets ill, and there's not enough money to take care of it. Nobody else has money in the family. They don't either, but they find a way to get that money to take care of their mother or father, don't they? And pay their bills. They never could do it before. Why? The situation made them raise their own standard. And not everybody does that. Somebody else in the family might have money and still not take care of their mother. It all comes down to the inner game, my friends. Changing your life is a change in the inner game. The outside world you can't control, but you have absolute control over this one if you learn the dynamics of what shapes you. And identity is one of those simple, clear, fundamental basics that if you start to shift it, everything else will shift in your life as well. Some people, by the way, have to have more than enough money to do what they want, when they want, where they want, with whomever they want, contribute the way they want. If that's their must, they find a way. I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it's true. Well, somebody once said you can take all the money in the world out of the hands of everybody, out of all the wealthy people in the world who are really successful, give it to other people. It wouldn't take too long, those people would have it back in their hands. It's not because they're manipulative, it's because they have a standard.